Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw Reacts back once again, another reaction for you guys. Today guys, of course, we're continuing the journey of Ben 10 Alien Force. This is Ben 10 Alien Force Season 1, Episode 12, titled Won't Know Until We Get into the episode. So last week's episode was pretty interesting. We got introduced to two new alien hunters that were going around, and no matter what kind of alien it was, they were throwing them into a null void projector. They didn't know that at the time though. They thought it was some sort of machine that was disintegrating, killing aliens. But no, it's a null void projector because Kevin had to tell them because they had no idea what they were actually doing. And they had no real idea of who they were hunting. And they had a third member, a part of their team that unfortunately, it seems like based off the implication, died. And there was video footage of him and he was recording himself talking about it, saying, one of the aliens we were going after pulled out a plumber's badge and what if you're wrong? And then when they're going through basically all of the aliens that they've kind of came into contact with and thrown into the null void projector, that it's pretty clear that there's some DN aliens, because sometimes I say DNA aliens, apologies for that, but apparently I'm wrong on that. It's DN aliens, but there's also like versions of Ripjaw or versions of like a heat blast, and then there was some other aliens and a version of Ghost Freak that were part of like, I guess they're like stats or whatever of different aliens they've ran into or half aliens they've ran into. And Manny, who was the version of Forearms part of this group, who I hated, I was so angry with this character, just didn't care. And they basically had to go through the whole entire episode going up against, of course, Kevin, Gwen, and Ben, and then finding out that they're actually in the wrong here. They're not DN aliens, and what they've been doing is pretty messed up. They're throwing anybody they ran into, good or bad, into the null void projector, so they went in themselves and all that, I guess, to fix their issue. So it was kind of crazy to see how this all unfolded. But it made me angry because that Manny guy made me so angry. But anyway, so it was interesting to kind of see more. There's other people out there kind of doing what they're doing, in a sense, not throwing people into null void projectors, but at least there's other people out there that are trying to do some good. Unfortunately, they just went off on a path that was not the right decision, not the right direction to go. But thankfully, they got course corrected by our team. So anyways, guys, I'm excited to get in the next episode. We're almost to the end of Season 1. It's kind of crazy to say that, but let's continue. Episode 12. Let's go.
Your time machine has cost the U.S. government a
Time
pretty
machine?
penny, Doctor.
But to answer your first question, there is only one way to find out.
To test it.
I'm not certain of anything, Hugo, but the chronomagnetic field we've generated should protect us.
What?
Grandpa Max said Los Soledad used to be a big military base back in the 50s. Some kind of research facility.
Oh boy.
Did
They're not supposed to
anyone
be
notice
here.
some of them are vaguely person-shaped?
They're fossilized.
And they're not the only thing.
The trail goes to the police station, then to those, I guess they're apartments.
DN aliens are not doing this. Does that look
I don't
like a
think
DN
so.
alien to you?
What? Oh, they're ready. Chroma Stone!
All we know so far is that it's looking for something here on the base.
Yeah, it hasn't left.
They built it here because of the huge quartz deposits.
Quartz time? Maybe they're trying to build the world's biggest wristwatch. Looks like my place after that big party I threw last
Whoa!
weekend.
It either came in here and vanished.
No.
Or it was born here.
Born here like that.
Swamp fire. That takes me back.
What?
Forward. It's so hard to tell, Ben. Have we met yet, I suppose the question was.
Yet.
Hey, it's
What?
that dork from the photo.
Who are you? What's
Yeah.
your name?
You just read my file. I was rather hoping you could tell me.
He's obviously connected to that creature. We need to
Yeah,
talk to him.
because as soon as he gets
yeah.
pulled in, the creature showed
Real
up.
talk.
And he's just gone.
Huh?
What the hell? This is crazy.
Was I in there?
What the hell is this? What is going on?
Easy on the jacket, it's 1,200 years old. Anyway,
That burn marks their age. The creature accelerates time.
very
What?
good.
Old Kevin. Old Kevin. Oh God. Old Kevin.
Get your hands off me.
Come on, Kevin.
Oh my God.
We're
Old
gonna get
Kevin.
you some help.
Is it too much to ask for a little
Now we know what he's
support?
like when he's older.
He's like a real irritable, short-tempered, crotchety old man.
Don't even think about it. You don't have a license.
You're trying to unlock a cactus. Whoops.
It's not a bumper car!
That is insane. Oh shit. Oh. Okay, sure.
You were supposed to get here 6 seconds ago. Or is this thing running fast?
What the hell?
Who are
This
you
dude.
anyway? What are you doing here?
Don't talk to me about old. I walk in eternity.
Eternity.
You better start running in eternity.
I'm a time traveler, not a body shop.
Thank you for confirming it.
Reversing a car
It's
would
kind of
break all
obvious.
the chronal laws of space-time. But even more like yourself now than you were in the future. Which, for obvious reasons,
Future.
I can't really tell you about. I'll tell you my story in a way you can understand, with a
Thank you.
beginning, middle,
Come
and
on.
end. Some tiny miscalculation on my part destabilized the experiment and ripped a hole in the fabric of reality. At first, I went mad, of course. But after a
Yeah.
few millennia, I got bored with that too and went sane. I now have total understanding of the space-time continuum, allowing me to travel anywhere and any when I want.
He has a map in his head.
Exactly.
Why is this one so bad?
Because unlike the thousands of foes I faced before,
Thousands.
This creature hasn't been lurking around here for 50 years. We would know about it.
time is like a river. The creature I released was blasted 50 years through time to your present.
Who's the man on the moon?
I am.
How are we not suffocating?
Good question. Not remotely the point, though.
You brought us to the
Whoa.
worst possible version of the future.
Not a pretty sight, is it? What are you doing here?
Damn.
I'm allowing myself to feel the full
Whoa.
impact of. Young Ben has an innate sense of transtemporal metaphysics, which will serve him well in his future. What should I do? Well, obviously not what I did, but whatever you do, you better do it quickly.
This is a crazy episode.
Why don't we travel back in time and...
You saved the world dozens of times.
Hundreds, actually. In fact, on one
Hundreds?
occasion, you and I worked together to save the entire universe. Never mind.
Jet Ray.
They hit it? Doesn't everything age into oblivion as soon as
Careful.
they touch it?
But I can still feel the eons.
Careful.
passing.
Sure this thing is gonna work? Your time machine
Oh, boy.
has cost the U.S. government
It tried to use the payphone. Then it went to the police station
Yeah.
and then the dorms. Look there. The assistant.
I bet he turns into that monster or whatever. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh shit.
You look so smug. I would have figured it out eventually.
You had 100,000 years.
You're much smarter than you were when I met you later.
Thanks, I guess.
Well, you look the same, and I haven't seen you in 50 years. I never got to time travel.
Would you still like to?
Yes.
I give you a behind-the-scenes look at eternity.
Can I go along?
Thanks for stranding us out here in the middle of nowhere.
Come on.
Car's fixed. Of course.
That if this car comes into contact with anything else from 1976, it will explode like antimatter.
Explode.
Enjoy.
I think it's safe to say this is one of the craziest episodes of Ben 10 Alien Force so far, and I think also Ben 10 as well, because my God, dealing with time travel, even though it's a version of time travel essentially, but it worked essentially. They were giving a lot of explanation about, you know, traveling through millennia and being trapped and the paradox and all this kind of stuff, and that's what they ended up calling the scientist, because he couldn't remember his own name, but he of course remembered everything else in terms of being pulled in to the vortex or whatever when he created this court like sphere like type time travel device in the 50s on this military base. And so he had all this time and countless lifetimes to figure all this stuff out, and he saved the world, the galaxy, all this kind of stuff. So he's called Paradox because essentially he can do pretty much anything. You know, it was insane. And so seeing that opening sequence in kind of like a black and white sepia tone thing, to where we see the experiment and you see the shadow when he's pulled into it, you see the shadow like, well, monsters show up, and I'm thinking, okay, the shadow is that time-traveling monster that we're kind of seeing or whatever, or the thing that's like going around like kind of like multiple version of itself, like just following or whatever. It turns out to be Hugo, I think that was his name, Hugo, the assistant. It turns out like that was him. But I thought when we saw that shadow in that opening sequence that was this monster. It actually was Ben when they went back and turned to Humongosaur to save Hugo, because he was the one who was also pulled in later, and he becomes the time traveling, like basically de-age, like not de-aging, but aging, alien or whatever. That if he's continuously if he gets out of the base or whatever, and he just starts going around and aging everything up, the world is going to be in catastrophe, disaster. So Paradox, he kept trying to figure out, how do I stop this thing and all that. And then unfortunately, when they come across it again, after learning some information, Kevin goes to punch it and he ages 60, 70, 80 years. And then that sequence where he's like, okay, well, we're going to appear over there. And then all of a sudden Kevin's back to normal now with Paradox, because he's figured out all this stuff by spending so much time. I think he said 100,000 years or something to kind of learn all the ins and outs of time travel. Like he's built the map in his head on how to do it. It was insane, all like the scientific stuff and everything. Then them going to the moon and all that, looking up at the Earth, and this is like the best possible outcome. And you see like the gray around it, to where it's pretty much gone. Essentially, like life is pretty much, destroyed or whatever, because of the time traveling alien, or I keep saying that, but you know what I'm saying, the aging alien that was just running around the base, and it was Hugo and everything, and Ben finds a way to save Hugo, and it was kind of cool how they brought that back. Like I said, the shadow and everything, it's like awesome. And then of course Gwen destroying the actual portal or whatever, so it was kind of interesting. Kind of reminded me a little bit in terms of the visuals of it when it started going. Kind of reminded me of a Volnoid projector. Obviously that's not what it was, but it's like, it was kind of cool. Like that's kind of like how they were kind of doing it, like building like a portal or whatever. So it's like, because the whole fascination about time travel, it's interesting that Ben, in the Ben 10 universe, now they have basically explained that there is time travel. We have the Sky Paradox, and he kept mentioning to Ben, which I think was probably one of the most interesting things about the episode, besides the whole concept in general of the episode, is the fact that him and Ben at one point saved the universe or something, and he's met Ben in the future. He knows about Ben in the future. He won't talk about it, though. It's like, we've seen a version of Ben in the future where it's Ben 10,000. We've seen, of course, Ken 10 and all that kind of stuff in the original Ben 10 series. But it seems like Paradox, he can travel to multiple variations of things, it seems, because when we had the one Paradox talking with Ben, Gwen, and Kevin, we had another Paradox who failed, and he's looking up at it, and then he turns around to them. He's like, well, what happened? Like, what should I do? Well, you shouldn't do what I did. You gotta go a different route or whatever. It's like, so basically there's more than one Paradox running around. And that whole sequence too, building up to kind of revealing who he is. When he's there, he hasn't aged, and he's kind of like in that like back room area where the experiment failed, and then he's like disappearing and reappearing in places. It was a cool build up to who he really was. I'm like, something happened to him, because when he got pulled in that portal, I'm like, okay, so they're gonna explain, and thankfully they really give a lot of detail about it, because it really just adds to how much detail, how much like they're willing to go into in regards to this world of Ben 10. Because realistically, they could have been vague on certain things, and they were in terms of like Ben's future and everything, and what Ben and Paradox apparently did together in terms of saving the universe or whatever. But in terms of like explaining he had all this time to learn, to figure out a map, to time travel, they really went into that extent of detail. And I was really just taken aback. I was really just invested in this episode. I love the fact that they did something like this, because I really didn't think about, okay, so time travel. They ever going to cover it in Ben 10? Because we have so many other things to kind of dive into in regards to what they've kind of established on this show. I never thought time travel and this kind of idea of somebody being a time traveler and how extensive he's been around, how long he's been around. I never really thought we would have dived into something like this. But the fact that we have really adds to the overall mythos, if you will, the lore of Ben 10, because this adds a whole nother dynamic, He's a very interesting character, and I feel like it was a cool little ending too, because he's been by himself essentially being stuck in, you know, the paradox or whatever. I think that's what he called it, where he was learning and spending like, 100,000 years or something. He was just stuck in there for so long. And so now Hugo, who was saved when Ben, Gwen, and Kevin went back in time to the actual event and the experiment going wrong, and Hugo accidentally he falls back and hits a control panel, and that's what ultimately destabilizes the whole portal and everything, and it becomes what it is, and stretching those things out, like stretching like compartments and stuff into it. Like, it was crazy, that visual there, and they were still there too. But Hugo then living his life for 50 years, and then he's now going to show Hugo time travel. He's going to show him everything because, you know, he feels like he deserves it. You know, the guy, he was there to try to help with an experiment. It wasn't successful in the sense of what they were trying to accomplish, but Paradox, the scientist, he was able to become something to help save the timeline, to help save worlds, help save the galaxy, the universe, whatever. He's been doing so much, and he said he's fought thousands of enemies, so he's been doing this for a very long time. So in a sense, the experiment worked better than they could have hoped, because it actually created somebody who can actually manage time travel and help keep time flowing correctly, because he mentioned time is like a river, and we've kind of heard that kind of analogy before in other areas and other places, of where time's like a river, and the idea of like this monster or whatever that came out, that's Hugo essentially, is messing with it. So he's trying to fix it. He's trying to find the balance to keep time flowing in a river, to keep going a certain path. It was really good. God, this episode was really just like, wow. I think I really need to watch this episode again, because there was so much they were throwing at me. I'm like, Jesus, a lot of information. Because sometimes with shows that cover these high concepts, because comparatively to what this show has done, a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of good storytelling, this is one of the times where they actually introduce something that's a very high concept that really just adds to, this is a thing now in the Ben 10 universe, that I think I need to rewatch it again to fully understand, or try to better understand what he's talking about, because there's a lot going on here. So overall, this is, like I said, one of the craziest episodes of Ben 10 so far in regards to Ben 10 Alien Force, and I really enjoyed it. And I wanted more, just but we got to move on to other things. But man, this was freaking great. So what do you guys think of the episode? I'm curious to know your thoughts. Whatever thoughts you have about this episode, guys, please let me know. That I can't even talk. I'm wrapping up the video. I'm done rambling. I just all over the place. I had a hard time recording the intro today. So anyways, I'm done. Review's over. Episode was great. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever thoughts you have about the episode, guys, please let me know in the comments below. That's what I was trying to say. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much for supporting the Ben 10 Alien Force reaction, guys. Peace out.